just checking the oil, and the coolant, and the transmission oil, and the belt tension. Take a look in the C strainer and make sure it's not too clogged up. See a little bit of stuff in there, so maybe I'll get that out. See you, Big Bayou. Can you wave goodbye to our old home?
As we mentioned in our last episode, once COVID hit, we relocated to St. Petersburg, Florida, and we spent nearly 2 years working on a refit.
One of the biggest and most time-intensive projects that we took on is replacing all of the electronics and navigation, communication equipment, everything, and replaced all of it.
All right, up the mast. Looking at replacing this guy right here. Up we go again. We are going to attempt to remove the radar unit.
Everything here is basically new, not the DC distribution panel. All new Garmin instrumentation, Garmin chart plotter, VHF, AIS, and also pretty significant rewiring. So this had been, it's still not perfect, but this had been a nightmare of electrical and electronic cabling. The DC stuff still needs a bit of cleaning up, but it's a big improvement. But where we really made strides is in how we laid out all of our NEMA 2000 communication equipment. We upgraded to an 85-pound Mantis M2, 300 feet of new 3/8-inch G4 chain, a Lumar chain stop, and did a pretty significant service on our Lumar windlass, which is a hydraulic windlass. We have both a hydraulic windlass and bow thruster, which is a little unusual for a boat this size. New LG 440 watt panel, new sails, new running rigging all around, new distribution panels, AC source selection, all new lifelines made out of Dyneema, and obviously the unsightly but necessary netting to keep Maddie on board.
And Maddie grew into a walking, talking toddler about to turn 2. We finally left the dock. You know what? Better late than never. 2 years in the making, we finally push Paradox off the dock and begin what we hope is the start of a grand adventure. It's been quite a day so far. We got a mile or 2 away from the house and Will realized he had left his phone in the house. So our good friends Ben and Quinn are gonna get the phone, then meet us in Bradenton. We're gonna have some dinner at Manatee River, which is our first stop. It's only, 15 miles away, so a quick sail, but long enough. It's already one that we didn't want to go back to the house to pick up the phone. So, a pretty perfect departure, not entirely without flaws. The weather is beautiful, it's 75 and sunny, and we're about to go under the Skyway, which is always a treat. And I don't know, today is day 1 of the rest of our lives. So that feels pretty cool. plan was to go slow and spend the next week making our way down to the Florida Keys. Our first few nights we spent just 15 miles away from where we pushed off in the Manatee River near Bradenton, Florida.
Yeah, the funny thing about it being 5 years between going cruising now and when we last went cruising is you kind of forget why you want to do it, and you get very comfortable living on land. That only takes a few months of being back on land, I think. But yes, there's a bit of nerves with going out again, and it's not like stepping off our dock into the azure waters of the British Virgin Islands. It's like, you know, swampy Florida water for a while, so it's not immediately evident why you're doing it. We should provide a bit of context about what we're thinking, what we plan on doing in the immediate future, and then kind of some longer term goals, or at least intentions.
Our first trip, we bought a boat that we were gonna have for a season. So we wanted something affordable that we could cruise the Caribbean with and hopefully sell it for what we bought it. This boat, we have, or at least had, an entirely different goal in mind. We bought a boat that we could, if we wanted to, take around the world. What our adventure is actually going to look like, it might be very different than that. We don't know.
Yeah, you tend to have loftier dreams when you don't have a child, is what we learned. Because we weren't sure that a baby was on the horizon when we kind of laid out our criteria and started really searching for boats. So even though Maddie was about to be born while we were surveying this boat and was born when we closed on the boat, the realities of having a kid hadn't really begun to change any of our aspirations. So at the time of buying the boat, we were still very much like, minimum getting across the Pacific, and if we get that far, then maybe around the world. Now it's all a bit looser. It's not to say that we necessarily wouldn't do that, but it's a little further off, or at least feels a little further off, and for the moment we're just taking it a step at a time. But with that said, we still have pretty long-term intentions with the boat. It's not just a season or two like the last time.
Our first season, this one we're on right now, our plan is to get used to living on a boat again and do the Bahamas. Really dig our feet in, get comfortable, explore a lot. Our first season, we whizzed through, well, every place. I don't think we stayed longer than maybe a week in most countries in the Caribbean island chain. So this is just a different philosophy. How can we go really slow? How can we make us all, three of us, as comfortable and happy on the boat as possible, and just sort of see what it's like, and go from there.
The long and short of it is, this season, mostly Bahamas, probably ending Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. Next season, Eastern Caribbean, and then who knows afterwards.
We'd like to take this boat across the Pacific.
Yeah.
That's our goal, and we'll see how she goes.
If we don't take her across the Pacific, then we really, really should have just bought a 5-year-old Beneteau.
We left Bradenton and headed down to Cayo Costa, where we spent a few nights anchored outside of the National State Park. It was a reminder of just how beautiful the Florida waters can be. Just woke up, second morning in Cayo Costa. Yesterday was a picturesque sunrise, and today we are totally socked in fog. Maddie, I think the gray is wearing on her soul. That's what she is. You do. Do you want some milk? It is time we also got reacquainted with the trials and tribulations and realities of getting a toddler safely to shore. We ended our time in this part of Florida by going to Cabbage Key and having dinner at the famous Cheeseburger in Paradise.
Maddie, look at that. He's eating a flower. You say, no, don't eat the flowers.
Bye.
Back on the boat after a nice day in Cayo Costa and then a good dinner at Cabbage Key. Highlight, obviously, being the turtles. And gonna enjoy a nice night before we head tomorrow on our overnight passage to Key West. In our next episode, we head down to the Florida Keys and spend some time in Key West and then Marathon before making our way over to the Bahamas.